The stars looked different now. High Commander Velthorn stood on the observation deck of his flagship, the massive warship that led 40,000 vessels in a perfect sphere around the small blue planet called Earth. After 15 years of careful positioning, the encirclement was complete. Every escape route was blocked. Every space lane was covered. The humans were trapped. Velthorn's scaled skin reflected the light from Earth's moon. He was old by any standard, having served the Krathian Empire for 8 decades. He had fought in 12 wars and won them all. This would be his 13th victory and perhaps his easiest. The humans were young, barely 3 centuries into space travel. They had primitive weapons and outdated ships. They were nothing compared to the combined might of 7 galactic civilizations. Status report, Velthorn commanded. His second officer checked the displays. All fleets in position, High Commander. The human home system is completely surrounded. Their defensive fleet counts only 200 ships. They cannot escape. They cannot fight. They can only surrender. Velthorn allowed himself a rare smile. The Galactic Council had feared these humans for too long. Yes, they were clever. Yes, they adapted quickly. But cleverness meant nothing against overwhelming force. The Council had learned this lesson with younger species before. Contain them early before they become a real threat. It was a simple strategy, and it always worked. Far below on Earth's moon, hidden in the shadows of a crater on the dark side, Admiral Taeyang Kim watched the same stars. His command center was buried deep underground, invisible to enemy scanners. Around him, dozens of officers worked in silence, monitoring the alien fleet that surrounded their home. Taeyang was 58 years old, but he looked older. The weight of 300 years of deception showed in his gray hair and tired eyes. He had given his entire life to Project Phantom, just like his parents before him and their parents before them. 3 centuries of lies, 3 centuries of pretending to be weak, 3 centuries of sacrifice, but it was almost over. They think we're trapped, said Commander Hien Choi, standing beside him. Hien ran Earth's intelligence network, and he knew every secret the galaxy tried to hide. 40,000 ships, 7 civilizations. They're celebrating right now. Taeyang nodded slowly. Good, let them celebrate. Let them feel strong. The bigger they feel, the harder they'll fall. Do you ever wonder if we made the right choice? Hien asked quietly. 300 years. Entire generations lived and died maintaining this lie. We could have fought them openly. We could have colonized freely. And we would have lost, Taeyang replied. When we first met them, we were children playing with fire. They had weapons that could crack planets, ships that moved faster than anything we had. If we had challenged them then, Earth would be a dead rock now. He turned to face Hien. Our ancestors made the only choice that mattered. They chose survival. They chose to appear weak while building strength. They chose patience over pride. And now, 300 years later, we're ready. Across the galaxy, thousands of light years from Earth, Captain Minji Park stood on the bridge of the Silent Dawn. Her ship was a stealth carrier, one of 300 identical vessels hidden throughout alien space. She was young compared to Taeyang, only 34, but she had trained her entire life for this moment. The Silent Dawn hung in the darkness behind the Krathian homeworld, completely invisible to their sensors. Minji could see the planet below, a world of red deserts and purple oceans. Millions of Krathians lived there, unaware that a human warship floated above them. Unaware that 300 human warships floated above all their worlds. Status check, Minji said calmly. Her weapons officer responded immediately. All systems green, Captain. Stealth field holding at maximum. We are completely invisible. The Krathian defense grid doesn't even know we exist. How many ships in the system? Minimal, Captain. Maybe 50 patrol vessels. The rest of their fleet is surrounding Earth. They left their home defenseless. Minji allowed herself a small smile. The aliens had made the same mistake that conquerors always made. They assumed their enemies thought like them. They assumed humans would keep their strength at home, defending Earth until the last moment. They never imagined that humans would send their best ships away, positioning them behind enemy lines years in advance. Back on Velthorn's flagship, a communication officer interrupted the High Commander's thoughts. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human government. Put it through, Velthorn ordered. Finally, the humans would surrender. It was about time. A human face appeared on the screen. It was an older woman, gray-haired and dignified. Earth's president. She looked tired but not defeated. That bothered Velthorn more than he wanted to admit. "Hi, Commander Velthorn," she said calmly. "I am President Kim of Earth. I believe we need to talk." "There is nothing to discuss," Velthorn replied coldly. "You are surrounded. You are outnumbered. You have 48 hours to surrender unconditionally. If you refuse, we will destroy every human ship in orbit and bombard your cities until you comply. Those are your only options." The president smiled, and it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret. "Hi, Commander, you are correct about one thing. We do need to discuss options, but I think you misunderstand who is actually surrounded here." Velthorn's eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" "You have 40,000 ships around Earth," the president said. "That's impressive. Very impressive. But tell me, High Commander, how many ships do you have defending your homeworld right now?" Velthorn felt a cold sensation in his stomach. "What are you implying?" "I'm not implying anything," President Kim said. "I'm telling you. While you spent 15 years surrounding our home, we spent 200 years surrounding yours. Every single one of your worlds has human ships in orbit right now. Invisible, armed, waiting. You brought your fleets to our doorstep, High Commander. And you left your own doors wide open." "You're bluffing," Velthorn said, but his voice lacked confidence. "Am I?" The president's smile grew wider. "You have 48 hours, High Commander. Not to receive our surrender, to decide what you're going to do about it. Because in 48 hours, if we don't reach an agreement, every human ship will decloak simultaneously, and then we'll see who's really surrounded." The transmission ended. Velthorn stared at the empty screen, his mind racing. It couldn't be true. It was impossible. Humans didn't have that kind of technology. They couldn't have hidden that many ships. They couldn't have. But deep down, in a part of himself he rarely acknowledged, Velthorn realized something terrifying. He had assumed humans were primitive. He had assumed they were weak. He had assumed they thought like everyone else in the galaxy. And if he was wrong about those assumptions, then maybe, just maybe, they were telling the truth. 48 hours. The countdown had begun. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, beyond the orbit of Neptune, Dr. Yuna Lee walked through a facility that didn't officially exist. The research station was carved into an asteroid, completely hidden from the rest of the galaxy. This was where humanity's greatest secret had been born. Yuna was 39 years old, and she had spent the last 15 years perfecting quantum displacement technology. It was a fancy name for something simple, making ships invisible and undetectable, not just to sight, but to every sensor the aliens had. Heat signatures, gravitational distortions, electromagnetic emissions. Her technology hid them all. She stopped in front of a massive window overlooking the construction bay. Dozens of ships floated in the darkness, each one sleek and dark. These weren't like the old human vessels. These were beautiful, deadly, and completely invisible to anyone who didn't know where to look. "Impressive, isn't it?" said a voice behind her. Yuna turned to see Admiral Taeyang Kim. He looked even more tired than usual. The weight of command was crushing him, and everyone could see it. But he never complained. He never wavered. "We did it," Yuna said quietly. 300 stealth carriers, 5,000 destroyers, 20,000 fighters, 50,000 autonomous drones, all invisible, all waiting for your order." Taeyang nodded. "And they're all in position?" "Every single ship?" "Every single one," Yuna confirmed. "Captain Minji Park's battle group is behind the Creathian homeworld. Commander Daehyun Song's fighter wings are positioned near their shipyards. Colonel Jiwon Kang's ground forces are ready to drop on occupied colonies. Everyone is ready, Admiral. We just need you to give the word." Taeyang looked out at the ships and said nothing for a long moment. Finally he spoke. "Do you know what keeps me awake at night, Doctor?" Yuna waited. "It's not the fear of losing," Taeyang continued. "It's the fear of winning. When we activate the Shadow Fleet, when we show them what we've really built, everything changes. We can never go back to being underestimated. We can never hide again. And if we use this power the wrong way, we become exactly what they feared we would be." Across the solar system, in the command center on Earth's moon, Commander Hyeon Choi was reviewing intelligence reports. His team had spent decades infiltrating alien communications networks, planting false information and studying enemy tactics. They knew everything about the Galactic Council's military capabilities. The aliens knew almost nothing about humanity's. Hyun pulled up a holographic display showing the positions of every alien ship in the galaxy. Red dots for enemy vessels, blue dots for human ships. There were so many blue dots that the display looked like the night sky. The aliens would never believe it. They couldn't believe it. Their entire understanding of human capabilities was based on lies that humanity had carefully fed them for 300 years. They think we're desperate, Hyun said to his assistant. They think we're about to beg for mercy. They have no idea that we've been preparing for this moment since the day we met them. His assistant, a young officer named Seojin, looked worried. Commander, what if they call our bluff? What if they attack Earth anyway? Hyun smiled grimly. Then we decloak every ship simultaneously and show them it was never a bluff. We destroy their shipyards. We disable their defense grids. We prove that while they were patting themselves on the back for surrounding one planet, we surrounded an entire galaxy. Lieutenant Dae-hyun Song sat in the cockpit of his fighter, floating in the darkness near a Crethean military shipyard. He was 27 years old, born long after humanity had committed to the long deception. He had never known a time when Earth wasn't hiding its true strength. His squadron, 12 of humanity's best pilots, hung invisible around him. They had been in position for 3 months watching Crethean ships being built, waiting for orders that might never come. It was boring work, but Dae-hyun understood its importance. Every ship built in this yard was one more weapon aimed at Earth. And when the order came, every ship in this yard would be scrap metal. All units, this is Shadow Leader, Dae-hyun said over the secure channel. Final systems check. We may be going hot soon. One by one, his pilots reported in. All systems green, all weapons ready. They were the best of the best, trained specifically for this moment. Young men and women who had grown up hearing stories about the day humanity would finally reveal itself. The day the hunted became the hunters. Back on Velthorn's flagship, the High Commander was not sleeping well. The human president's words echoed in his mind. Could it be true? Could humans really have ships behind every alien world? It seemed impossible, but something bothered him. Something his strategist Lixivara had mentioned months ago. He called her to his quarters. Lixivara was a careful thinker, always questioning assumptions. She had warned him about the humans before, but he hadn't listened. Maybe it was time to listen now. Strategist, Velthorn said when she arrived. You once told me something was wrong about the human response to our encirclement. Tell me again. Lixivara looked surprised but recovered quickly. High Commander, the humans have been too quiet. For 15 years we've been moving ships into position around their homeworld. Any rational species would be screaming for help, building defenses, evacuating populations. But the humans? They just watched. They sent diplomatic protests. They negotiated. They acted like they weren't worried at all. Maybe they knew they couldn't win, Velthorn suggested. Or maybe, Lixivara said slowly, they knew something we didn't. High Commander, I've analyzed 300 years of human behavior. Every time we defeated them, they accepted it too easily. Every time we restricted their expansion, they complied without real resistance. Every time we demanded concessions, they gave them up with barely a fight. It's not normal behavior for a proud species. What are you saying? I'm saying they've been playing a long game. Longer than any game we've ever seen. They let us think we were winning. They let us think they were weak. And while we were congratulating ourselves, they were preparing for something we never anticipated. Velthorn felt that cold sensation in his stomach again. Send a message to High Command. I want every homeworld to scan for stealth vessels immediately. I want every defense grid on maximum alert. And I want answers in the next 12 hours. On Earth, Admiral Taeyang Kim received notification that the aliens were beginning to search for human ships. He smiled, they wouldn't find anything. Human stealth technology was generations ahead of alien detection systems. By the time the aliens realized humans were really there, it would be far too late. He opened a secure channel to all Shadow Fleet commanders. This is Admiral Kim. All units prepare for Operation Reversal. The enemy is starting to suspect. In 24 hours, we show them the truth. In 24 hours, the galaxy learns that humanity is not prey. We are not victims. We are survivors, and we've been 3 steps ahead of them since the beginning. Across the galaxy, thousands of human officers received the message. 300 years of preparation. 300 years of sacrifice. 300 years of pretending to be less than they were. It was all about to pay off. The countdown continued. 24 hours until the galaxy changed forever. The timer hit 0. Admiral Taeyang Kim stood in the Lunar Command Center, his hand hovering over a single button. Around him, every officer in the room held their breath. 300 years of human history had led to this moment. 300 years of hiding, planning, and preparing. And now, with one command, it would all be revealed. For Earth? Taeyang said quietly. For humanity. For everyone who sacrificed so we could reach this day. He pressed the button. Across the galaxy, transmitted through quantum-entangled communications that moved faster than light itself. A single word reached every human ship. Execute. Captain Minji Park received the signal aboard the Silent Dawn. She had been waiting for this moment her entire career. Her entire life. She turned to her crew. All of them young and determined, all of them ready. All ships, this is Park. Operation Reversal is active. Drop stealth on my mark. Weapons hot. Remember your training. Remember your targets. We disable, we don't destroy. We show strength, not cruelty. Mark in 3, 2, 1. The Silent Dawn appeared. One moment, the space above the Krethian homeworld was empty. The next moment, a massive human carrier materialized along with 24 destroyers and 100 fighters. They appeared so suddenly that the Krethian defense systems didn't even have time to react. Minji watched her tactical display. All around the galaxy, blue icons were appearing. 300 stealth carriers, 5,000 destroyers, 20,000 fighters, all revealing themselves at the exact same moment. It was the most coordinated military operation in human history. Captain, the Krethian defense grid is powering up, her tactical officer reported. They're trying to target us. Fire on designated targets only, Minji ordered. Weapons platforms and military shipyards? Nothing else. Show them we could destroy them, but we choose not to. Human weapons, more advanced than anything the Krethians had ever seen, lanced out with surgical precision. They didn't explode planets or crack worlds. They disabled defense satellites. They melted the guns on orbital platforms. They turned massive weapons into useless metal without killing a single person. On Velthorn's flagship, chaos erupted. Alarms blared. Officers shouted over each other. Reports flooded in from every corner of the galaxy, all saying the same impossible thing. Humans were attacking. Humans were everywhere. Humans had been hiding in plain sight for years. Report. Velthorn roared, his calm demeanor completely shattered. What is happening? His second officer's hand shook as he read the incoming data. High Commander, human vessels have appeared at all 7 homeworlds. They've appeared at our major military installations. They've appeared at our shipyards. Sir, they're everywhere we didn't think to look. How many ships? Velthorn demanded. We're still counting, but initial estimates. Sir, they may have more ships than we do. And their technology. It's far more advanced than our intelligence suggested. They've been lying to us. For centuries, they've been lying to us about everything. Lieutenant Dai Hyun Song's fighter squadron screamed through the Krethian shipyards, dodging defensive fire that couldn't quite track their speed. The young pilots moved like a coordinated dance, each one knowing exactly where the others would be. They had practiced this strike 1,000 times in simulation. Now it was real. Shadow 2, take out that construction arm, Daehyun ordered. Shadow 5, disable those docking clamps. Remember, we're not here to kill anyone. We're here to show them we could have killed everyone, but we didn't. His targeting computer locked onto a half-built warship. One shot from his weapons melted its engines. The ship would never fly, but its crew was still alive. That was the point. Humanity wasn't here for genocide. They were here to make a statement. On the surface of a planet called Kethros, a human colony that had been occupied by alien forces for 50 years, Colonel Ji-won Kang's ground troops appeared in the capital city. They didn't arrive in invasion ships. They teleported in using technology the aliens didn't know humans possessed. One moment, the alien garrison was patrolling a quiet street. The next moment, they were surrounded by armed humans. Ji-won spoke through her helmet speaker system, her voice amplified so everyone could hear. Attention, occupation forces. You are surrounded. Your orbital support has been disabled. Your communication systems have been jammed. You have one option. Surrender peacefully and you will not be harmed. Resist, and you will wish you had surrendered. You have 60 seconds to decide. The alien commander looked at the humans surrounding his position. He looked at the advanced armor they wore, the weapons they carried, the calm confidence in their movements. He looked up at the sky, where his orbital support should have been, and he lowered his weapon. "We surrender," he said. Similar scenes played out across dozens of occupied human colonies. Alien garrisons surrendered without firing a shot. They simply couldn't believe what they were seeing. The species they thought they had conquered was liberating itself, and doing it so efficiently that resistance seemed pointless. Back on Earth, Commander Hyan Choi broadcast a message on all alien frequencies. His face appeared on every screen, every display, every communication device in the galaxy. Behind him, a holographic map showed the positions of every human ship, every human base, every human capability that had been hidden for 3 centuries. "People of the galaxy," Hyan said calmly, "you thought you had surrounded Earth. You thought you had trapped us. You thought we were weak, primitive, and desperate. You were wrong about everything. While you moved your fleets into position around our home, we moved our fleets into position around yours. While you planned our surrender, we planned this moment. You are not in control here. You never were." He paused, letting the words sink in. "But we are not conquerors. We are not murderers. We could have destroyed your homeworlds without warning. We could have struck while you slept. We could have done to you what you planned to do to us. But we didn't. We disabled your weapons. We neutralized your military infrastructure. And we left your people alive. Do you understand what that means?" Another pause. "It means we want peace. Real peace. Not the peace of submission, but the peace of equals. You have 40,000 ships around Earth right now. We have your homeworlds under our guns right now. This can end one of 2 ways. Either you withdraw your fleets and we talk like civilized beings, or we show you what humanity looks like when we stop being patient. The choice is yours." The transmission ended. On Velthorn's flagship, silence fell. Every officer stared at their screens, unable to process what had just happened. The species they had spent 15 years surrounding had just surrounded the entire galaxy. The prey had become the predator. The victim had become the victor. Strategist Lixavara spoke quietly. "High Commander, I recommend we accept their offer to negotiate. We cannot win this fight. Not today, perhaps not ever." Velthorn stared at the planet Earth floating peacefully below. It looked so small, so insignificant. How had they underestimated it so completely? "Open a channel," he said finally. To the human commander, Tell them we want to talk." The bridge of Velthorn's flagship looked like a disaster zone. Officers argued with each other, voices rising in panic and confusion. Some wanted to press the attack on Earth. Others demanded they return home immediately to defend their worlds. A few simply stood frozen, unable to comprehend how completely their situation had reversed. Silence. Velthorn's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. The officers fell quiet immediately. He was still their commander, even if everything else had fallen apart. "Give me a clear situation report. No panic, no speculation, just facts." The tactical officer took a deep breath. "High Commander, human forces have revealed themselves at all 7 allied homeworlds. Initial estimates suggest they have between 70 and 80,000 combat vessels, not including support ships. Their weapons technology exceeds our own by at least 2 generations. Their stealth capabilities exceed our detection systems by 3 or more generations. And, sir, what?" Velthorn asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. "They've been holding their fire, sir. They disabled our defense grids, but they haven't fired on civilian targets. They haven't bombarded cities. They could have killed billions in the first hour of the attack, but they chose not to. They're making a point." Strategist Lixvara stepped forward. "They're showing us that they could have been monsters, but they chose not to be. It's brilliant, really. They're proving their strength while simultaneously proving their restraint. Any action we take against Earth now looks like senseless aggression, because they've already demonstrated they could destroy us but won't." Velthorn sank into his command chair. "We've been completely outmaneuvered. They didn't just beat us militarily, they beat us morally. How did we miss this? How did we not see what they were doing? Because we assumed they thought like us," Lixavara said quietly. "We assumed they would meet force with force, strength with strength. We never considered they might choose to appear weak while building strength in secret. We never imagined they had the patience to play a 300-year game." On Earth, Admiral Taeyang Kim watched the tactical displays with satisfaction. The plan was working perfectly. Every alien homeworld was now held at gunpoint, but no unnecessary damage had been done. Human forces had struck with such precision that civilian casualties were 0. This was important. Humanity needed to win this fight, but they also needed to win the peace that followed. "Admiral, we're receiving communication requests from all 7 allied governments," Commander Hyan reported. "They all want to negotiate." "Good," Taeyang said. "But we talk to them together, not separately." United Front. "Tell them we'll meet with their representatives in 3 days at a neutral location. That gives them time to calm down and think rationally." "And the fleet surrounding Earth? Leave them there for now. They're not a threat to us anymore, and they know it. Let them sit and think about what happened. Sometimes the best weapon is silence." Captain Minji Park stood on the bridge of the Silent Dawn, now fully visible above the Krethian homeworld. The planet below was beautiful, she had to admit. Swirls of red desert and purple seas, cities that glittered like jewels in the sunlight. It was a shame that this world had been ready to destroy Earth without a second thought. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Krethian government," her communications officer said. "They're asking to speak with our commander." "Put them through," Minji ordered. A Krethian official appeared on her screen. He looked terrified, which was understandable. A human fleet had appeared out of nowhere above his homeworld. "Please," he said, his voice shaking. "Please don't hurt our people. We'll give you anything you want. Just don't—" "We're not going to hurt your people," Minji interrupted gently. "Look at your casualty reports. We've been here for hours and we haven't fired a single shot at civilian targets. We disabled your military infrastructure, nothing more. We're not conquerors. We're negotiators with very big guns." The official blinked in confusion. You're not going to invade. Why would we? We don't want your planet. We just want you to stop trying to take ours. Tell your leaders that humanity is willing to talk, but the talking will be done as equals, not as conquerors and conquered. That's all we've ever wanted." On the newly liberated colony of Kethros, Colonel Jiwon Kang watched as human colonists emerged from hiding. They had lived under alien occupation for 50 years, always hoping that Earth would remember them. And Earth had. Earth had never forgotten any of its children. An old man approached Jiwon, tears streaming down his face. "You came back," he whispered. "All these years they told us Earth had abandoned us. They told us humanity was weak and defeated. But you came back." Jiwon removed her helmet so he could see her face. "We never abandoned you. We were just waiting until we were strong enough to bring you home safely. Every colony that was taken, every human who suffered under occupation, we remembered all of you. This whole operation, everything we built, was partly for you." Across the galaxy, similar reunions were happening. 47 human colonies had been occupied by alien forces. In a single day, all 47 were liberated. Not a single colonist was lost in the operations. The aliens had surrendered without meaningful resistance once they realized how completely they had been outmatched. Dr. Yuna Lee stood in her research facility, watching news broadcasts from across the galaxy. The reactions were fascinating. Some aliens were terrified, some were angry. But a surprising number were impressed, even admiring. They respected strength, and humanity had just demonstrated strength beyond anything they had imagined. A junior scientist approached her. "Dr. Lee, I've been analyzing alien communication intercepts. Some of their species are actually advocating for alliance with us now. They're saying that if humanity can build this kind of technology in secret, imagine what we could build together in the open." Yuna smiled. That was always the hope. We didn't want to conquer them. We wanted them to respect us. Fear gets you temporary compliance. Respect gets you lasting peace. Lieutenant Daehyun Song flew a patrol pattern around the now-disabled Krethian shipyard. His squadron had done their job perfectly. The shipyard was useless for military purposes but could be repaired for civilian use. That was the balance humanity had to maintain. Strong enough to defend themselves, merciful enough to build peace. "Shadow Leader, this is Shadow 6, one of his pilots called. "I'm picking up a distress signal. Looks like a Krethian civilian transport. Their engines are failing." Daehyun didn't hesitate. All units were rendering assistance. "Shadow 6, get close and see what they need. Shadow 2 and 3, provide cover in case anyone gets stupid ideas." 20 minutes later, human engineers were aboard the Krethian ship repairing their engines. The Krethian crew watched in stunned silence as the same soldiers who had disabled their military infrastructure now worked to save their lives. When the repairs were complete, the Krethian captain sent a simple message to the human squadron. "Thank you." Small moments like this were happening all over the galaxy. Humans helping their former enemies. Humans showing that strength didn't have to mean cruelty. Humans proving that they could be trusted with power because they knew when not to use it. On Velthorn's flagship, strategist Lixvara compiled a report. When she presented it to the High Commander, her conclusion was simple. They've already won, sir. Not just militarily, they've won the moral argument. Every hour that passes without them attacking civilian targets, every rescue operation they conduct, every act of mercy they show, it all proves they were never the threat we claimed they were. We were the threat. We were the aggressors, and they've proven it without saying a word. Velthorn read the report in silence. Finally, he spoke. Schedule a communication with Admiral Kim. Tell him I personally want to negotiate. And Lixvara, tell him I apologize for all of it. The tables had turned completely. The hunters were now the hunted. The strong were now the weak. And the species everyone had underestimated was now the most powerful force in the galaxy. But power, humanity was proving, wasn't about who had the biggest guns. It was about who knew when not to pull the trigger. The neutral station hung in empty space, exactly halfway between Earth and the nearest alien homeworld. It was an old trading post abandoned decades ago when the Galactic Council had restricted human expansion. Now it would host the most important meeting in galactic history. Admiral Taeyang Kim arrived first along with a small delegation. Commander Hyun Choi was there, as was Dr. Yuna Lee. They represented military power, intelligence, and scientific achievement. 3 pillars of humanity's strength. They wore simple uniforms carrying no weapons. They didn't need to. Every alien leader knew that human warships were positioned above their homeworlds right now. High Commander Velthorn arrived with his own delegation. Strategist Lixvara stood beside him, along with representatives from all 7 allied civilizations. They looked uncomfortable, uncertain. 3 days ago, they had been the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Now they were coming to negotiate with the species they had tried to conquer. Also present was Ambassador Nimkara, a representative of the Galactic Council's diplomatic corps. She was neutral in this conflict, or as neutral as anyone could be. She had watched the human revelation with fascination and a growing sense of guilt. The Council had treated humanity like children for 3 centuries. The children had grown up. The 2 groups met in a circular room with windows showing the stars beyond. For a long moment, nobody spoke. They just looked at each other, each side trying to read the other. Taeyang broke the silence. Thank you for coming. I know this isn't easy for any of you. 3 days ago, you thought you had us trapped. Now you know we were never trapped at all. That must be difficult to accept. Velthorn's expression was hard to read. You lied to us. For 300 years, you lied about everything. Your technology, your population, your capabilities. How can we trust anything you say now? We didn't lie, Commander Hyun said calmly. We just didn't tell you everything. There's a difference. And we had good reason. From the moment we met you, you treated us like a threat to be contained. You restricted our expansion. You occupied our colonies. You prepared for war against us before we ever gave you a reason. What were we supposed to do? One of the other alien representatives, a being from the Vortan Collective, spoke up. You could have been honest. You could have asked for a fair chance. We tried that, Taeyang replied. In the early years of contact, we asked for equal treatment. We asked to be included in the Council as full members. We asked for the same rights as older civilizations. Do you remember what the Council told us? Silence. I'll remind you, Taeyang continued. They told us we were too young, too primitive, too dangerous. They told us that in 1,000 years maybe we would be ready. 1,000 years. They wanted us to wait 1,000 years for basic respect. So we found another way. Ambassador Nimkara stepped forward. Admiral Kim is correct. I've reviewed the historical records. The Council treated humanity unfairly from the beginning. We assumed that because you were young, you were inferior. We never gave you a real chance to prove yourselves. And when you did prove yourselves, we got scared and tried to contain you. We were wrong. Several of the alien delegates looked uncomfortable. They clearly hadn't expected one of their own to admit fault so directly. Strategist Lixvara spoke for the first time. Admiral Kim, may I ask a question? Of course. You have overwhelming military superiority right now. You could dictate terms. You could demand reparations. You could even conquer us if you wanted. But you're here talking instead. Why? Taeyang smiled slightly. Because conquest was never the goal. Survival was the goal. Respect was the goal. We spent 300 years preparing for war, so we would never have to fight one. We built weapons so we wouldn't need to use them. We created the Shadow Fleet not to conquer the galaxy, but to prove we couldn't be conquered. Does that make sense? It's the most rational strategy I've ever heard, Lixavara admitted. It's also the most patient strategy I've ever heard. 300 years. 300 years of your people living under restrictions, maintaining a deception, sacrificing open development, all for this moment. I'm not sure any other species in the galaxy could have done it. Dr. Yuna Lee spoke up. May I add something? You keep focusing on our military technology, but that's not what makes humanity special. Every civilization can build weapons. What makes us different is that we can work together across generations for a common goal. My great-grandparents helped start Project Phantom. They died never seeing its completion, but they did it anyway, because they knew their children's children would benefit. That's our real strength. Not our ships, not our weapons. Our ability to sacrifice now for a better future. The room fell quiet again. The alien delegates were processing this information, seeing humanity in a new light. Not as primitives or threats, but as something they hadn't considered. Equals who approached problems differently than they did. Belthorn finally spoke again, and his voice was different. Less hostile, more thoughtful. What do you want, Admiral? What are your terms? Simple, Taeyang said. We want a seat at the council table. Not as junior members, not as probationary members, as full equals with full voting rights. We want all restrictions on human expansion removed. We want all occupied human colonies returned immediately, and we want a formal apology from the Council for 300 years of discriminatory treatment. That's all? The Vortan representative asked, surprised. You're not demanding territory? Resources? Reparations for damages? That's all, Taeyang confirmed. We don't want your territory. We have plenty of space to expand into. We don't want your resources. We can mine asteroids and lifeless worlds. We don't want reparations. We just want respect. Give us that and we'll withdraw our fleets. Refuse and we'll stay exactly where we are until you change your minds. Ambassador Nimkara looked at the other delegates. These are more than reasonable terms. They're generous considering the situation. I recommend we accept immediately. One by one, the alien delegates nodded their agreement. Even Velthorn, despite his earlier hostility, had to admit the terms were fair. Humanity was offering peace without humiliation. They were allowing the galaxy to save face while still getting what they deserved. There's one more thing, Commander Hyun said. We're willing to share some of our technology, medical advances, agricultural improvements, nothing military obviously, but things that could benefit everyone. We're not asking for anything in return. We're offering it as a gesture of good faith. This surprised everyone. After everything that had happened, humanity was still willing to help their former enemies? It didn't make sense according to traditional power politics, but it made perfect sense for humanity's actual goal. Not domination, but cooperation. Velthorn stood and extended his hand to Taeyang. It was a human gesture, one he had learned specifically for this meeting. Admiral Kim, on behalf of the Krethian Empire, I accept your terms. I also offer my personal apology for my role in this conflict. We should have treated you as equals from the beginning. We won't make that mistake again. Taeyang shook his hand firmly. High Commander, I accept your apology. I hope this is the beginning of a better relationship between our peoples. We have a lot we could teach each other. As the other delegates came forward to add their agreements, Ambassador Nimkara watched with a mixture of relief and wonder. 3 days ago, the galaxy had been on the brink of the largest war in history. Now peace was breaking out, and it was all because one species had been patient enough to turn the tables completely. The treaty would be formalized in the coming weeks. Human ships would withdraw from alien space. Alien ships would withdraw from human space. And for the first time in 300 years, humanity would take its place in the galaxy as equals among equals. But the negotiations had revealed something more important than military positions or treaty terms. They had revealed that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their ships. It was their philosophy, the understanding that real strength comes not from the ability to destroy but from the wisdom to know when not to. 6 months after the treaty signing, Earth looked different. Ships from all 7 allied civilizations now visited regularly, their crews walking through human cities with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Trade agreements had been signed. Cultural exchange programs were underway. The galaxy was learning to see humanity not as a threat, but as a partner. But peace was harder than war. Admiral Taeyang Kim stood in the Galactic Council chambers for the first time as an official member. The room was huge, designed to hold representatives from dozens of civilizations. Human seats had been added in a position of honor, acknowledging their status as equals. It felt strange to be here openly after 3 centuries of deception. Not everyone was happy about humanity's new status. Some council members still grumbled about being outmaneuvered. Others feared what humanity might do with their technological advantages. Trust Taeyang was learning couldn't be built overnight. It required constant effort. The first major test came during a routine training exercise. Lieutenant Daehyun Song found himself flying alongside alien pilots for the first time. The joint military exercises were designed to build cooperation between human and alien forces. It was awkward at first. Human flight lead, this is Krethian Wing Commander Torvin. A voice crackled over his radio. Your formation patterns are unusual. Please clarify your tactical approach. Daehyun smiled despite himself. 6 months ago, this Krethian pilot would have been his enemy. Now they were training together. Wing Commander, our tactics prioritize speed and unpredictability. We can show you if you're willing to learn. There was a pause. Then, we are willing to learn. Show us. For the next hour, Daehyun demonstrated human fighter tactics. The Krethian pilot struggled at first. Their training emphasized formation discipline, while human training emphasized individual initiative. But gradually they began to understand. By the end of the exercise, mixed human-alien squadrons were executing maneuvers neither side could have managed alone. Dr. Yuna Lee experienced similar breakthroughs in the scientific sphere. The Council had opened their archives to human researchers, and humanity had done the same. Alien scientists were amazed by human medical advances, particularly in gene therapy and disease treatment. In return, humans gained access to alien knowledge about energy generation and faster-than-light travel. This is remarkable, a Vortan scientist said, reviewing human medical data. You developed these techniques without Council assistance? In only 3 centuries? Necessity drives innovation, Yuna replied. When you're isolated and restricted, you either stagnate or you get creative. We chose creativity, but not all news was good. Commander Hyun Choi uncovered a conspiracy within Earth's government. A group of high-ranking officials wanted to use the Shadow Fleet not for defense, but for expansion. They argued that humanity had the power now, and should use it to claim territory before other civilizations caught up. Hyun brought the evidence directly to Admiral Taeyang Kim. Sir, we have a problem. Some of our own people want to become exactly what we fought against. They want to use our advantage for conquest. Taeyang reviewed the files with a heavy heart. Names? High-level officials, ministers, even a few military officers. They're planning to present their proposal to Parliament next month. They think they can convince the public that expansion is our right after centuries of restriction. Arrest them, Taeyang said without hesitation. All of them. Charge them with attempting to violate the treaty and threatening galactic peace. We fought for 300 years to prove we're better than conquerors. I won't let a few power-hungry fools destroy what we built. The arrests made headlines across the galaxy. Some aliens were shocked that humanity would arrest its own leaders. Others were impressed that humans took their commitment seriously enough to police themselves. Ambassador Nim Kara called it the moment the galaxy truly believed humanity's promises. Captain Minji Park, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, faced her own challenges. She was assigned to a new role, commander of the 1st Joint Human-Alien Defense Force. It was a small group, only 20 ships total, but it represented something important. Former enemies working together. Her first crisis came when a Krethian hardliner attempted to assassinate High Commander Velthorn. The attack happened during a diplomatic function on a neutral station. Minji's security team, which included both human and Krethian guards, responded immediately. The assassination attempt failed, but barely. Velthorn survived thanks to the quick actions of a human medic who used advanced trauma techniques the Krethian doctors didn't know. As Velthorn recovered, he requested a private meeting with Minji. Admiral Park, he said, his voice weak but sincere. Your medic saved my life. Your security team protected me when my own people tried to kill me. 6 months ago, we were enemies. Now you're saving my life. I wanted you to know that I understand what humanity has been trying to teach us. Power means nothing without honor. Minji nodded. High Commander, we never wanted to be your enemies. We just wanted to be your equals. The fact that we're standing here talking like this, that's what we fought for. That's what 300 years of deception was about. Not revenge, just respect. The attempted assassination had an unexpected effect. It unified support for the new treaty. Alien populations saw that humanity was willing to protect even their former enemies. Human populations saw that not all aliens supported the old hostile policies. Trust began to grow. Colonel Ji-Won Kang worked on the ground level of this new peace. Her job was coordinating the return of occupied human colonies and helping colonists adjust to their new freedom. It was harder than expected. 50 years of occupation had left scars. Some colonists wanted revenge against their former occupiers. Others had learned to coexist and didn't understand why things were changing. Freedom is complicated, Ji-Won explained to a group of young colonists. You've been taught to hate the aliens who occupied your world. That hatred was justified, but now we have a chance to build something better. We have a chance to show that humans and aliens can coexist peacefully. It's not easy, it's not simple, but it's worth trying. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening. Humans learning to trust aliens. Aliens learning to respect humans. It wasn't perfect. There were incidents, misunderstandings, occasional violence from extremists on both sides. But overall, the peace held. Admiral Taeyang Kim met regularly with Ambassador Nimkara during this period. They had developed an unlikely friendship, bonding over their shared commitment to making the peace work. During one meeting, Nimkara asked him a question that had been bothering her. Admiral, be honest with me. When you revealed the Shadow Fleet, were you prepared to actually use it? If we had refused to negotiate, would you have attacked our homeworlds? Taeyang was quiet for a long moment. Yes and no. We would have attacked military targets. We would have disabled your ability to wage war. But we would never have targeted civilians, never. That was the line we drew from the beginning. We would rather lose with our morals intact than win by becoming monsters. That's why we believed you, Nimkara said. That's why the peace is working. You proved you had the power to destroy us, but the wisdom not to. You showed that strength and morality aren't opposites. They can coexist. As the months passed, the new order became the normal order. Human ships patrolled alongside alien ships. Human scientists collaborated with alien researchers. Human diplomats worked with alien ambassadors. The galaxy was learning that cooperation produced better results than competition. But humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy wasn't their technology or their military strength. It was their philosophy, the idea that you could be strong without being cruel, that you could have power without abusing it, that you could win without making others lose. These concepts, so obvious to humans, were revolutionary to much of the galaxy. The new order was fragile. It required constant maintenance, constant effort, constant vigilance, but it was working. And that was more than anyone had dared to hope for 6 months earlier, when the galaxy stood on the brink of the largest war in history. 5 years had passed since the reversal. Admiral Taeyang Kim was 63 now, and his hair had gone completely white. He had served humanity for 4 decades, and he was tired. But retirement would have to wait. The galaxy faced a new threat, and this time everyone would need to stand together. The threat came from beyond the known galaxy. Human long-range scanners, more advanced than anything the Council possessed, had detected it first. A massive swarm of vessels, thousands strong, moving through the void between galaxies. They weren't responding to any communication. They weren't slowing down. They were heading straight for Council space. Taeyang stood before the Galactic Council once again, but this time the mood was different. There was no hostility, no suspicion, just concern and a willingness to listen. Council members, he began, what we're facing isn't like anything we've encountered before. These aren't conquerors looking for territory. They're exterminators. They don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. They simply destroy everything in their path and move on. High Commander Velthorn, now retired but still influential, stood to speak. Admiral Kim, 5 years ago we were enemies. You proved you could have destroyed us but chose not to. Now you're warning us about a threat to all our peoples. What do you propose? A combined fleet, Taeyang replied. Human stealth technology with Krethian weapon systems. Vortan shields with human engines. Every civilization contributing their strengths. This enemy will reach our space in 3 months. We have 3 months to build something the galaxy has never seen before, a truly united defense force. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in galactic history, every council member agreed on military action without debate. The threat was too great for politics. This was about survival. Fleet Admiral Minji Park took command of the combined forces. She was 40 now, no longer the young captain who had commanded the Silent Dawn. She stood on the bridge of a new flagship, one designed by human and alien engineers working together. The Unity, they called it, a fitting name. Her fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had ever assembled. Human ships flew in formation with Crethean cruisers. Vortan destroyers protected Telkaran carriers. Species that had fought each other for centuries now worked side by side. It should have been chaotic. Instead, it was beautiful. Squadron Commander Daehyun Song, he'd been promoted 3 times in 5 years, led a mixed fighter wing. His pilots were human, Crethean, Vortan, and 4 other species. They trained together until they moved as one unit, each pilot understanding and trusting the others completely. "Listen up," Daehyun said during a briefing. "This enemy doesn't care what species we are. To them, we're all the same targets. So we fight as one. Human tactics with alien discipline. Alien weapons with human innovation. We've spent 5 years learning to work together. Now we get to prove it wasn't wasted time." Dr. Yuna Lee coordinated the scientific effort. Human and alien researchers worked around the clock, analyzing data from the approaching swarm, trying to find weaknesses. They discovered something fascinating. The swarm ships were ancient, older than any civilization in the galaxy. They were automated weapons from a long-dead empire, still carrying out their original programming: destroy all life. "We can't reason with them because there's nothing to reason with," Yuna explained to the military commanders. "They're machines following programming. But machines have weaknesses. They're predictable. They don't adapt. That's our advantage." The swarm arrived exactly on schedule. Thousands of vessels poured into the outer systems, destroying everything they encountered. Automated defenses, warning beacons, unmanned stations. Everything vanished before the relentless advance. The combined fleet met them at a carefully chosen location, a debris field left over from an ancient supernova. The terrain favored smaller, more maneuverable ships. It negated the swarm's advantage in numbers. It was a trap, and the swarm flew right into it. "All ships, this is Admiral Park." Minji's voice rang across the fleet channels. "Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. Not just our homes, but the principle that different peoples can stand together. Show this enemy what unity looks like. All units engage." The battle was fierce. The swarm ships were powerful, ancient weapons designed for total destruction. But they were predictable, just as Yuna had said. They followed attack patterns thousands of years old. The combined fleet, with its mixture of tactics and strategies from multiple civilizations, confused them. Daehyun's fighter wing danced through the debris field, leading swarm ships into ambushes. Human stealth allowed them to disappear. Crethean weapons allowed them to strike hard. Vortan shields allowed them to survive mistakes. Together, they were unstoppable shadow leader to unity, Daehyun reported. "We've disabled the lead elements. They're regrouping, but they're confused. Their programming doesn't account for cooperative tactics." The battle lasted 3 days. In the end, the swarm was destroyed completely. Not a single ship escaped. The combined fleet had suffered losses. Good people from every species had died protecting the galaxy. But they had won decisively. After the battle, Admiral Taeyang Kim traveled to the battlefield. He wanted to see it with his own eyes. He wanted to honor the dead who had proven that unity was stronger than division. Ambassador Nimkara joined him. 5 years ago, we were ready to destroy each other, she said quietly. Today we fought side by side and won. That's your legacy, Admiral. Not the Shadow Fleet, not the reversal. This proof that former enemies can become allies. Taeyang shook his head. It's not just my legacy. It's humanity's legacy. We spent 300 years proving we could be patient, 5 years proving we could be merciful, and today we proved we could be partners. That's what we wanted from the beginning. Not to conquer, not to dominate, just to be accepted as equals. Months later, a memorial was built in the debris field where the battle had taken place. It listed the names of everyone who had died defending the galaxy, regardless of species. Human names beside Crethean names beside Vortan names. In death, at least, they were truly equal. High Commander Velthorn, now very old, made one final visit to Earth. He met with Taeyang in a quiet garden outside the military headquarters. Two old warriors, former enemies, now friends. "I've been thinking about that day," Velthorn said, "when your president told me you had ships behind all our worlds. I was so angry, so humiliated. I felt like a fool for not seeing it coming, and now?" Taeyang asked. "Now I'm grateful. If you had been the conquerors we expected, the galaxy would be very different. Darker, more brutal. Instead, you showed us a better way. You were behind us, yes, but not to stab us in the back. You were there to catch us when we fell, to support us when we needed it." That's what the title really meant, wasn't it? The galaxy encircled Earth, but humans were already behind them. Behind them in the sense of supporting them, not destroying them. Taeyang smiled. "You understand? That's exactly what it meant. We were never about revenge. We were about survival and coexistence. We built weapons so we would never need to use them. We demonstrated power so we could then demonstrate restraint. Everything was calculated to get to this moment, where we could all work together instead of against each other. The Shadow Fleet still existed. It still patrolled the galaxy, still maintained its technological edge, still trained constantly. But now it protected all civilizations, not just humanity. The hunters had become guardians. The weapons built for revenge had become tools for Peace Captain Minji Park, now Grand Admiral of the combined Galactic Defense Force, stood on the bridge of the Unity and looked at her diverse crew. Humans, Krethians, Vortans, and a dozen other species all working together seamlessly. This was what her great-grandparents had dreamed of when they started Project Phantom. This was what 300 years of sacrifice had purchased. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson, but it had learned well. Assumptions about others led to conflict. Respect led to cooperation, and cooperation made everyone stronger. Years later, when historians wrote about this era, they would mark it as the turning point in galactic civilization, the moment when species stopped seeing differences as threats and started seeing them as strengths. The moment when the galaxy stopped being a collection of rivals and became something greater, a community, and at the center of that transformation was humanity. Not because they were the strongest, though they were strong. Not because they were the most advanced, though they had advanced rapidly, but because they understood something the older civilizations had forgotten. That true power comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to build. Not from conquering others, but from standing beside them. The galaxy had encircled Earth, thinking they had trapped humanity. But humanity had been behind them all along, not as enemies waiting to strike, but as partners waiting to be acknowledged. And when that acknowledgement finally came, the galaxy changed forever. Admiral Taeyang Kim retired at the age of 65, his work finally complete. On his last day in uniform, he stood one final time in the Lunar Command Center where it had all begun. The room was different now, open to visitors, a museum piece, a reminder of what humanity had accomplished through patience and wisdom. He pressed his hand against the glass, looking out at Earth below and the stars beyond. 300 years ago, his ancestors had made a choice.